some good coffee. Hey, what's up? It's Chris from Unsigned Musician. There's absolutely nothing worse for a guitar player than rocking a killer solo on stage and then underbending a string. We're going to talk about string bending and implementing it into a practice routine. So what is string bending? String bending is a way for you to make your notes sound more fluid and more vocal-like. And in combination with vibrato is probably one of the sexiest things you can do on guitar. It makes it emotional. People connect when you bend, when you slide, when you have vibrato. The same way that someone would connect with a vocalist that's really killing it. It's very easy to underbend or overbend a string. One of the things I want to talk about is your string gauge on your guitar. If you play nines or a light string gauge, you may find overbending a problem as you advance in your guitar playing. It's definitely something I came across, and the other thing I found with nines is that you lose where that string is under the pad of your finger. So it might be off a little bit one way or the other, but because the E string is so thin, it's often hard to feel where it is, so it can cause a little underbend or overbend because you're trying to compensate where that string is because you can't feel it. With a set of tens, I find you get a little more fight back, so you gotta work harder to get that bend, but when it gets there, it feels better. It doesn't feel like a little tiny little tiny wire under your finger. You got some meat, something's dug into your finger, so it stays there a little more. Now that's just personal preference. If you find you're overbending and you're playing nines, I would recommend just bumping up one set up to a set of tens and giving it a try. And if you are finding you're underbending or you find bending hard in general, definitely go down to a set of nines. Go down to the lightest string you can to get that strength and stamina built up, and then go up to tens if you find that it's necessary for you. All right, let's get on to the exercises. So your ears are gonna play the biggest part when it comes to bending over your physical ability. Now that's really weird to say, but it's completely true. You might have all the strength in the world, can bend 3-4 frets, but if your ear isn't there to hear your target note, where you wanna land, it's all for naught. All these exercises I'm going to base out of the A minor pentatonic box in the first position. I'll play it really quick for you. You should be familiar with it by this time. This is what most guitarists base their scales and solos around, and this box in particular has 3 really good bends that we can work on. Bend number 1. We're going to pick a starting note and then a target note. So the starting note is the note that we're going to play before the bend. Target note is the note that we want to get to. So we don't want to go above it, we don't want to go below it, we want to land right on it. Our target note is going to be the A note, so the root of the scale. 5th fret of the high E string is the note that we're going to target. Our starting note is going to be the 8th fret of the B string. So that's the flat 7 of the scale, and we're going to bend it up a whole tone or 2 frets to the root note. This is a great bend to know. It's a great way to end solos or to resolve because you're landing back on that root note. The way I like to perform this first exercise is playing the root note with my first finger, getting my pinky onto that starting note, the flat 7, and then using my ring and middle finger as supporting fingers for the bend. So I would never bend with just my pinky finger. I don't think I have enough strength to bend that a whole tone. So I need some supporting fingers behind it. So I'm gonna put those 2 fingers down. That's our starting note. That's the note we wanna hit. So here we go, ready? and then hold it and just see if it gets there. If you gotta make a micro adjustment as it's up, that's easy to do. And then I also like to, after I hold it, pick it one more time and let it come down. Another tip is use a clean sound for all these exercises. Turn off your delays, keep some reverb on, but turn off your distortions, all your modulation effects, especially modulation. That will really screw with the sound of the core tone. Because of that warble, you're not gonna get a true representation of where that target note's landing. So a great way to do this exercise is, if you got a stopwatch, 10-15 seconds, and just work on that target note, starting note, bent up to the target note. So I'll play a little example. That's it, super simple. Try and keep it really clean. And the reason I like holding and then doing that reverse bend back to your starting note is it's gonna come into effect later on when you have to do pre-bends. In a lot of solos out there, guitar players will pre-bend a note before they play it and then drop it back down. So it's in essence, you're bending down to a note, which you can't physically do on guitar. So you have to do a pre-bend, so. Sounds more of like a crying type emotion, like, you know, you come, ah. All right, that's the first exercise. Get it down, get it clean. The second one, we're gonna start with our first finger on the 5th fret of the B string. This is the 5th of the scale, the pentatonic scale. Now this time we're gonna use our ring finger. It's just a shower, don't worry about it, we're all good. So we're gonna use the ring finger, and is going to be on the B string, which is the 4th note of the scale, and we're gonna bend it up to the 5th. So starting note, target note. Work it nice and slow like that. Listen to that note as it goes through those kind of really dirty, like dissonant sounding microtones until it gets to that 5th where it stabilizes, where it's a unison bend. So the whole thing about bends is that they're supposed to be kind of nasty. They're not always supposed to be a really pretty melodic thing. They're supposed to give some dirt and just some edge to your playing. Doing them slow and getting that sound into your head is gonna go a long way in your bending. All right, the last bend we're going to do is gonna be on the high E string. Now this string can only be bent up towards your face. All right, here's gonna be the high E string, an example of bending that, the full tone up. So we're bending from the 8th fret to the 10th fret. So that's going from the minor 3rd to the 4th of the minor pentatonic scale. And on this string, if I'm bending it and really into it, I'm gonna use all 4 of my fingers to support my pinky finger, which is always the weakest when you're bending. So don't try and bend with just one finger. 2, 3 is good. If you don't need that finger to mute, just throw it in there, give some extra support, give some extra strength and push. And then when you go to add vibrato to these bends afterwards, it's gonna give a lot more stability and power, which is what you're really looking for. Here's our starting note and our target note. And then here would be the bend. Now you might have heard a little bit of string noise. The trick with bending the high E string is not catching the B string against the fret, but actually pushing it out of the way and keeping it in the air with your pinky or with another finger. If it gets stuck under the finger, you're gonna hear a little bit of a click, and it's not noticeable with a lot of high gain or when you're soloing with some delays in this. But when you're playing clean and you want to get these as crisp as possible, just look out for that. The best way I've found when practicing and trying to do these bends during a warm-up or during a practice session is to do 1 or 2 bends and then finish out a riff or finish out a melody. Not just to do them over and over and over. That's great to do when you're first starting and just building up that stamina. It's great to do a few times before you get into working on your riffs. But then once you get to that point, you want it to be fun. You want these bends to mean something and to sound like they belong. I'm going to play just a few examples of something I would possibly do during this exercise or during this time during my practice session. So we'll stay in the A minor pentatonic. Something as simple as that, bending and then playing a few notes. Bending, keeping that bend high and just doing a small vibrato or a little variance and bringing it back down is another variation. Bringing in a major third on a minor run is always a great way to mix it up. As long as you're not in a totally minor key, that's one of my favorite bends as well. I think I overbent that note a little bit, so I'm gonna double check. It's pretty close, but that's the stuff you're gonna start hearing as you're going through these exercises and working on them daily. You're gonna hear that I overbent that a bit or I underbent that a bit, and that means that you're learning and growing your ears, which is one of the best things you can do as a musician. Okay, I'm just gonna goof around a little bit. Play some licks just to give you maybe some practice ideas of things that you can do. I'll try and incorporate all 3 bends and yeah, just have fun with it. Doesn't have to be perfect, as you just saw, but just working those bends in, trying them out in different ways, different scenarios, and have fun with it. All right, this is Chris from Unsigned Musician. Check out some more videos for playing techniques or tips, and we'll see you next time.